Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Sunday Routine by the Trading Field. So I'm back here in Dubai now after spending a nice week or so with my family, and we are ready to crack on for the week ahead. So last week, another successful week, the third week in a row that we've delivered a very, very good amount of pips for our members. Our member group also increased by about 15 or so over this past week as well, which is fantastic, and welcome all on board to you guys. In terms of the week that just went, we did actually secure about 205 pips for the week. It was probably the least amount of trades that we've done in a week. There weren't many opportunities that sort of came to fruition, but of the trades that we did place, it was about 205 pips or so. So mainly being GBP NZD was about 160 pips or so, and also a trade that we did on Euro CAD was a fantastic trade with a good 90 pip reward on that one as well. So obviously we're back now, ready to start the week ahead, ready to plan and analyze for the markets for this coming week. And one thing, just wanted to obviously say thanks to the guys that turned up for the TTF meetup in London. We had a very, very good time, a few games of pool, a few drinks, and a really, really nice evening, and it was fantastic to meet some of you guys as well. So there will be many more of these things happening with us, and most importantly, you guys, I'm sure, will be looking forward to the TTF yacht party, which we will be having in the next couple of months once we've hit 100 members on our group. So guys, first thing I'm going to do is just run through last week's trades and last week's charts just to show you what happened, and obviously just run through the analysis behind that. And then moving forward from there, what we'll be doing is Yasser will run through the trades for the week ahead and actually where we see these markets moving in the coming days or so. Okay, guys, so we're just going to jump into the charts for last week and some of the predictions that we made. So starting with the CAD JPY market. Okay, so as you can see with the arrows that we've still got on here from last week, we did expect this market to pull back to this kind of 82.5 level. We had quite a few members actually that were also looking at this market based on their own analysis and looking for similar sort of signs of actually buying pressure to actually buy this market and take this higher. Now, we finished the week pretty much around 82.5, 82.6 to be precise. And therefore there was no real indication or no real entries based on our criteria to actually enter that market this week. So potentially this week it might be coming into play. So we're going to be keeping a strong eye on this one, and we'll just be double checking the charts on the longer term time frames. Just to double check whether or not this bias is still valid as such, but we'll wait and see. We then have GBP NZD. This one did play out perfectly for us. We entered actually off the back of this candle here, which touched into our zone and heavily rejected it. Okay, so we anticipated this zone already, and it was a perfect entry that delivered us around 160 pips, I believe. So we all had a very, very nice trade at the start of the week. Obviously, since the market has changed direction quite rapidly, okay, the pound got stronger after the Brexit news, which happened, I believe, on Thursday. But obviously, we were already out of the market at this point as well. We then have gold. So we were anticipating a drop on gold, and we can see that drop, okay? The only thing is there was no real entry for us. Unfortunately, it did hit into our zone, but it hit it quite rapidly. And this wasn't a scenario where we were happy to actually enter the market at this point. So this one we left alone, but as you can see, the analysis was actually correct in terms of sort of spotting and identifying that pullback, to then actually seeing that market drop about 160 pips or so. We then have the euro trades. Okay, so euro trades, as we can see, euro Aussie dollar did retrace as we expected it to, but so far there is no sign of us entering that market, and obviously as we come to close that week, there was no entry for us. So potentially this could be one on the cards for this week, looking at a short on this market, but obviously we'll let Yasser go through this later on. We have the Euro GBP trade, Euro CAD trade. Now this trade we did actually take, and this was one that we had about 90 pips or so on it. We basically entered the market at 1.501, and our target was very, very nicely spot on to this 1.51 level, okay, which is exactly what we expected to happen with this market. We just found ourselves a very, very nice entry and therefore securing about 90 pips or so on that one. So very nice trade. And again, we have had our bias and our kind of prediction correct in terms of spotting that potential pullback. And now I think we could be heading lower on this market and actually see that Canadian dollar really strengthen this week. We then have GBP CAD. Okay, so that pullback happened. We never got into this market though. There's still no real signs just yet. But obviously looking at the price action at the moment, this could again come into play this week. Euro GBP, nothing really exciting happening on this one. We do actually have a trade open on this one at the moment, and of providing the bias still stands after just reviewing this week's candles, we could be seeing actually some upward movement and some upward pressure on this market. So let's wait and see. We then have USD JPY. Now, the buying pressure on this market was so strong at the end of the week, which, as I mentioned in the previous video, it would be very tough to be able to say that this market will actually pull back and then head to the target. Okay, so the market just absolutely carried on flying up about 60 pips or so to that target, where it's now sort of halted. So we could be potentially looking for some opportunities on this market, but we'll just run through the technicals later on in this session. UK FTSE 100 just kept going. As I said, it probably will do. The pressure was so much over the last week, and it has actually managed to climb and increase by almost 200 pips. So I'm quite happy that we left that one alone. We were waiting for a pullback in this 7,000 region, and as you can see, we did just touch it, but that didn't really qualify our criteria of entry, so we have left that one alone. We then have NZD USD. Okay, we had that pullback as expected, but then the US dollar strength last week was pretty strong. Okay, so there's no entries into that market just yet. And then finally, we've got our Aussie dollar pairs. Okay, Aussie dollar Swiss franc, and we've got Aussie dollar US dollar. Again, both of them did pull back as expected, but no signs of buying pressure just yet. So we'll wait and see on that this week. And then finally, we've got USD CAD, which again, the initial prediction was correct. We did retrace and pull back up until that 1.325 level. And now we're starting to see the sellers come in. So we might be looking for opportunities on that as well. So that's last week. We delivered about 206 pips for our members last week, which is obviously a fantastic week. And what I'll do now is pass you on to Yasser that will go through the trades for the week ahead. Thanks, guys.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Sunday routine. So we thought we'd switch it up a little bit this week. Matt's just talked about the last week's trades, and now I'm going to run you through the analysis that we're looking at, the pairs that we're focusing on for the week ahead, and the price action that we're expecting in order to be able to enter these trades at the best possible price. So without further ado, let's get into the trades. Okay guys, so the first thing that you'll notice on some of these pairs is that we're already in the buying and selling zones. And the only reason that we didn't take these trades on is because it happened in the latter part of last week. And we try not to hold trades over the weekend, so we'll be certainly keeping an eye out in the early part of this week. So we start off with the USD Swiss franc. We're looking for a small retracement and then looking for the next leg to the downside. Now moving on to USD South African Rand, which is also known as the USD ZAR, we're looking for a small retracement back down to the manipulation zone of 13.5 to then see potentially the next leg to the upside. Now, Euro pairs have been a little bit choppy in the sense that some have been very bearish and some have been bullish, but in this case, when we're looking at the Euro NZD, we're looking for a small retracement back down to the manipulation zone of around 1.67 to then see it potentially pushing up towards the next manipulation zone of 1.69. Now moving on to Euro JPY. Euro JPY is looking very bearish. Okay, we can see multiple rejections around the supply zone. So we're looking for a small retracement just to get the best possible entry around the 124, 125 region. To then see the next potential leg to the downside. We'll also look for this upside trend line to be broken, which will just confirm the downside pressure that's coming into this market. Now moving on to Euro GBP, we're already in this trade, so we're looking potentially, hopefully, for a rejection down into this demand zone to then continue its leg to the upside. Now moving on to Euro CAD. We're very bullish on CAD, so and in this case, in this trade, we are bearish, but we're looking for a small retracement back down to the manipulation zone of 1.51, which will give us the best possible entry. As you can see, there's multiple rejections around this region, and that will give us the next lower high to then continue its potential leg to the downside as well. Moving on swiftly to Euro Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar, this pair experienced some bullish momentum, and that was largely due to the negative news that was coming out of Australia in relation to the Aussie dollar. So we're looking for a slight retracement back into this supply zone. We are pretty much there, but just to give us that extra bit of bit of risk reward ratio and an extra bit of better price entry, we're looking for a little bit of a retracement back into this zone to then see it push down lower. Now GBP pairs, we are certainly very bullish on the majority of them. So this again is already in our demand zone. We're looking for it to we're looking for the price action in the early part of this week to then be able to enter long on this market. That's GBP USD, sorry, I didn't mention that. GBP NZD, similar scenario here. We're very close to the demand zone. We're looking for a small retracement. As you can see, it respects this level very well. So we're looking for a small retracement back into the zone to head up to the manipulation zone of 1.925. Now moving on swiftly to the GJ, as you can see here as well, it respects these demand zones very well. So we're looking for a small retracement just to give us that better entry, and then to continue its leg to the upside of around 145. Hopefully that's the one that we'll be looking out for, and hopefully we'll see that happen this week. Now moving on to GBP Aussie dollar, again this experienced bullish momentum because of the bearish pressure that was on the Aussie dollar all of last week due to the negative news that came out. So again, we'll be looking for a little bit of a better entry just into this demand zone here to continue its leg to the upside of 1.85 region. That's the one that we're looking out for. Now GBP CAD, CAD obviously we are bullish on, and we are approaching, and we've already rejected around the manipulation zone of 1.725. So we're looking for a small retracement back into that zone to hopefully see some rejections around this area to then enter short on this market and give us the best possible entry in that market too. Now Aussie dollar USD, of course, as I just mentioned, we experienced major bearish momentum, largely due to the negative news that was coming out of Australia. So we are now in our demand zone to be able to hopefully see similar scenario that happened here, some rejections in this zone, and then the bulls to really come into the market and head up towards our next target of 0.725. Now we're looking at Aussie dollar Swiss franc, again bullish on this because of the bearish pressure that happened last week. So we'll be looking for a small retracement into this zone to be able to go long towards the 0.7325 region. CAD, as I mentioned, we're already very bullish on, and as you can see, we are approaching the trend line, and we're already in the demand zone already. So we'll be looking at the price action here to see when the opportunity presents itself to be able to go long on this market towards the 85 region. Now New Zealand dollar USD, we are bearish on this. As you can see, there's multiple rejections around this major manipulation zone of 0.685. So we'll look for a small retracement, a break of this trend line to then continue its downside pressure down to the 0.66 region. Now moving on to the indices, the FTSE 100, we did see some bearish pressure in the latter part of last week. So we'll look for a small retracement back up to the 7150 region. So watch the price action there, hopefully see some rejections, and then continue lower down to 7,000, maybe a little bit below that as well if we're lucky. Now moving on to Germany, again similar scenario, we've seen major rejections around the 11250 region. So we just look for a better entry on this, enter into this supply zone to then be able to go short on this market and head down to the 10,500 region. Now looking at gold is very choppy at the minute, but we are slightly bullish on this if we are going to take any trade on this at all. So we'll look for a small retracement, watch the price action there, and then we are long-term bullish on this to be heading up to 1350, but obviously we'll watch the price action as and when it happens, and hopefully be able to enter this market and get a good risk reward on this also. So guys, that covers absolutely everything, all the markets that we'll be looking out for. Obviously, in every pair that we've just analyzed, we'll be looking at the price action to see if these trades are valid for us to enter towards our bias as well. So keep an eye out on the next video next week to see how these trades actually played out and which ones we actually took. And as always, please subscribe, like and comment to the videos, and we'll see you next week.